everyone, this is Yosarian or Yos, and today I'm going to go through sort of a tutorial or walkthrough for the Osvald speedrun for Octopath Traveler 2. So Octopath Traveler 2 has a few different routes, a lot of single stories, a lot of full game routes, and I've played the Osvald route a lot because there's 8 starting characters, and if you look at Osvald, and I think he's actually quite newbie friendly for people who might be learning the game. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to play through the game, and I'm going to sort of explain what you can do at each point, some of the calculated risks you can have depending on your risk tolerance and how hard you're trying to push the leaderboards, because I think that's always useful info and not always quite captured in the guides. So sometimes it's more helpful just to have a video to play along. So before I jump into it, I just want to say shout outs to Dahlia, who came up with the original route, and then Tachibana made some refinements. And then there's some brainstorming going on in the Discord channel, and there are a handful of tweaks made by myself just to save like 5 or 10 seconds here or there. But at the moment, May 2023, this is presumably the fastest route. In the future, it might be faster routes for sure. But at present, the world record is by Tachibana, and it's 33 minutes and 33 seconds. Of course, we can't predict the future, but I think unless there's a pretty big shift in how this route carries out, this route's going to stay pretty much how it is, because that's pretty fast time, and there's not a lot of fat that can be trimmed out there. So, with that said, let's dive in, and for the purposes of this, I'm not going to explain the super basics of Octopath Traveler. I'm going to assume you've at least played the game a little bit, so you'll know like how breaks work and stuff like that. But generally everything else I'll explain as we go through it. So, let's load up Octopath here. So just first, I'm going to show the settings that are used in the game. So, voice language, doesn't matter, whatever you'd like to do, and text language doesn't matter as well. But you want message speed on fastest, of course, text display short, and then disable vibration if you want. Cursor position is kind of up to you. Path action cursor position also up to you, just based on your preferences. This is what I like to use though. And then I would say one thing about the frame limit is you can set it to what you want, and this route will work with 60 FPS or whatever. And these are just separate leaderboards. 120 FPS is the fastest and saves a decent chunk of time. But you can run at 60 FPS, and it's its own separate category, so no worries there. And then generally that's it. So, one last thing to set up here is we want to preload the fast forwards. So just go to whichever character you want. We'll use Osvald to start. And use R1, or whatever you prefer, to just speed up at the bottom right there, set it on fast forward. Because this does carry on throughout saves. So you can actually preload that and have it set up before your run. So I will use a timer here. We're not really going for a good time or anything, but it's just sort of for reference. So with that said, let's kick off our run. So Osvald's kind of weird, where Chapter 1 is pretty long. It's the longest Chapter 1. And there's a good amount of RNG in Chapter 1, but once you pass Chapter 1, life is not too bad. But I will say that before you even get to the first dungeon, I'm averaging between 2 minutes and 53 seconds and 2 minutes and 55 seconds, so we'll say there's about 3 minutes of stuff you have to do before actually getting into the dungeon, which can make the grind a little tedious, but that's going to be the first about 3 minutes of this run. So let's kick it off. So we definitely want to hold cancel to go through the cutscenes quickly. And then the first cutscene here, we're going to have a little fight. And there's 2 tutorials we have to skip. And then we just mug him. You want to set the battle speed to 2 times before that tutorial comes up. And then we just attack him with 2 attacks, and then 1 more attack to win that fight. Pretty straightforward. The important thing there is just to actually get the battle speed set to 2 times quickly before anything else pops up. So we grab our notebook, and we're going to have to go back and forth a couple times. First, we're going to go and talk to Emerald here. A couple tutorials here. And then you're going to choose the latter here. If you choose the former, it just wastes a couple seconds. You have to end up choosing the latter. And then the second thing we need to do is this part here. And you can do either of these in whichever order you prefer. Go past that dude. And we're going to go up here, talk to him. One thing I want to say about that guy is when you're scrutinizing him, after you close the dialogue box, it's faster to just click through him than to wait for the bar to fill up on the cutscene. And now we got to go in here. Just another little thing we got to do. As I said, there's about 3 minutes here. Scrutinize him. Cutscene, and then we need to set up our run and just run back. And then we have to go meet Emerald. And we're almost to the dungeon. Emerald's up here. Just go talk to him. Get a couple things to skip. He joins our party, just briefly. Get a tutorial when we leave here. And then we run down here. So one thing about this chapter 1 in this dungeon is you need 30 JP for the boss fight. So that way you can learn advanced magic. So in the first fight, it's always this encounter. And if you're trying to push for a top time, you want to find the fastest way to break this. If you're just playing around, just do what you need to do. With a turn order like this, I would have Emerald attack who's ever before Osvald. Osvald attack and break the other one. And then Osvald just boosts his fire to kill him. And this gives you 6 JP, plus the 2 you got from earlier. If Osvald's first, and then Emerald's last, you can just have him use fire and then boosted fire again, and you'll kill him. So then we get the Sinner's Staff, and we got to pick up another item too. And we basically do this because the buff is nice, but also since we got to get 30 JP, that's what we're going to do. We don't really like the bat, because it gives almost no JP. This is probably the worst encounter to get, but you can kill it really quickly. So it doesn't hurt your time too badly as long as you get good encounters. So after we get the necklace, we're going to equip both on Osvald. And then we keep going. See what we get here. Another bat. Not great. If I were pushing for a really good time, I would reset at this point. So the goal is hopefully to just have 3 encounters, including the one that's set. And then maybe 4. Bats give so little JP that it's going to mean I probably have to take 5 or more encounters. So if you're just playing for fun, that's no big deal. But if you're trying to get a good time, you would probably reset. And then we buy here. We want to buy the cloth hood for Osvald. And then you really just need 1 healing grape there to get up to 5. Now let's see what encounter we get. Just got to run around here. So this is the same as the first encounter. We're still still at 22, so you gotta take another one. We're not getting any really good encounters. The good ones have the wisps. Hopefully we get one of those here so we can show it off. The perfect encounter is double wisps, because then you have Osvald use fire, and then you have him boost fire and you kill him super quickly. I'm glad we got this encounter, because I can show you guys. This is the best encounter to get after you equip the staff on Osvald. So all you do here is you attack here with emeralds. You use fire with Osvald, which will break the wisp. You'll get hit here. And then you can boost fire with Osvald. That'll kill the wisp, break that, and then you can attack 3 times with emerald here. If emerald is before Osvald, then you probably want to defend and just attack that way, because unbroken it won't kill it. But anyway, that's a good encounter to get because it gives 16 JP, so now we have 30. So what we want to do is we want to equip Enhanced Magic on Osvald. And ideally you won't need to heal here, but if you do, you can either just use grapes, or you can heal with Emerald's First Aid. You can YOLO it if you want and not heal, but generally you do need to heal. So before starting this fight, we have a couple goals here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to attack with Emerald twice, which will put Warden Davids' shields at 3. So we need 2 attacks from Emerald. We need 3 advanced magics for Osvald. And then we need Osvald, after using his 3 advanced magics, to have 70 SP, or magic points if you are familiar with other games. So 3 shields on Warden, 3 advanced magics for Osvald, 70 SP on Osvald, and decent hit points too, because your characters are going to get hit. You don't have time to heal after this. So you set up those conditions and then you break. So we'll see what turn orders we get and how to do this. Attack with Emerald, advanced magic. Let's see who they attack. Can do advanced magic again because no one's super weak. So if they kept attacking Emerald, I would heal here. You don't have to break first, you can heal if you need to. And sometimes you'll get turns where you don't have really an action to do, so then you can use that to heal. So here, the ads don't attack for very much, and the Warden won't do 100 damage. So what I can do here is use the Plum on Osvald. Even if he attacks Emerald, I'd be fine. And then now we look at the turn order and we see there's only one more person before Osvald, and that one attack again is not going to do 100 damage. So we're fine using advanced magic our last time to get it set up. So now we're going to look at the hit points here. We want to heal Osvald. He's too weak. The debuff, that's good. Attack Osvald, that's good. So now we see Emerald here is just going to be using a bunch of items. So we're going to heal up. We're going to Plum Osvald. Alright. So here you have a decision to make, and I said I would talk about the risk-reward trade-offs you can make. So what I could do here, and what I will do, is I'm going to heal with Osvald. Might as well, right? Get him at good health. But you might have a situation where that's not the case, and you might need to stack your turn orders a different way. And what I mean by that is on the turn that you break, you need Emerald to be before Osvald. So if you look at the next turn, we have Emerald, 2 ads, Warden Davids, and then Osvald. So this is perfect. We don't really need to do anything extra. We can just have it go as it does. Emerald can attack and break, and we're good to go. If this were not the turn order, let's say next turn Osvald was before Emerald, we would need Emerald to potentially defend to be first next turn and take another turn. So there's a lot of moving pieces in this fight, but we're actually looking pretty good. So we're going to heal here. Emerald's going to break. Now the ads will get 2 attacks here, and that's fine. We also want to look at the hit points for Emerald and Osvald. So after the break, Warden Davids is going to attack 4 times, and each time is 60 to 65 damage. So generally, you want to have them each absolutely above like 130, 140, but them above 200 is pretty good. I have had runs where I've risked it a little bit and had a little lower hit points, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I'll talk about that in more detail in a second. So, Emerald breaks, Osvald, Blizzard times 3, don't do times 4, just times 3. And the advanced magic will make it hit twice, so it'll break the adds. Then we fully boost Firestorm, and Emerald's going to attack the Warden 3 times. So now the Warden stuns Emerald. This can be for either 2 or 3 turns, which is pretty important. If it's for 3 turns, Emerald is out of the picture for the most part. If it's for 2 turns, you can get pretty lucky. So what we're going to do, which we can't see yet, is we're going to look at the next turn. And if you're pushing for a top time, you really need Osvald to be before the Warden. Otherwise, he resummons the adds. Since we're just recording, it's going to be fun to see what happens. But before then, here, we just need to use Firestorm to wear him down a little bit. Ooh, and we got it. So we have text bubbles here. Now, we just use fire again, putting him at 1. And that's where he attacks 4 times. I have had runs, and I'm sure other people have too, where you just get unlucky and he'll attack the same character 4 times. And then you just gotta reset. Or sometimes you chance it, and he'll go 3 times Emerald, 1 time Osvald. You didn't have enough hit points, they die. That's just a consequence of doing the Osvald runs, and that's why Chapter 1 is the worst, but after Chapter 1, this run is pretty good. So here we can see he has 1 shield. Emerald is still stunned, so this is why I was talking about if he's stunned for 2 or 3 turns. If it was only 2 turns, Emerald could break here as well. But Emerald's stunned, Osvald's not. We got the good turn order, so we just break. Use your latent power, and then fully boost fire. And then Emerald attacks 4 times, and then we're done. Not bad. So just as a reference point, for that Chapter 1, a really good Chapter 1 would be about 620 to 630 when you finish the fight. A playable chapter run, if you're pushing top times, would probably be 640, 650. Over 7 minutes, you can have a good run, but it's unlikely to get a top time. So just for anyone curious about really grinding out those chapter ones, you're aiming for a 620 to a 640 chapter 1. So this screen, we want to walk it. You can get an encounter. We hope that we don't. We'll see. If you do, it's always a wolf. We're lucky there we didn't. But we'll get a wolf on the next screen, so I'll talk about it there. So we'll get 1 encounter here. It's going to be a wolf, and that's what it would have been on the last screen too. And you got a few options here. It just depends on your risk tolerance. You can try to YOLO flee. The odds are alright. I don't know exactly what they are. Maybe like 50-50. If Emerald is first, since Emerald can't break, I just try to flee. If Osvald's first, you can just break with fire. And then flee. So I do want to point out that breaking here and attacking with Osvald boosts his latent power ever so slightly, which is something we want to pay attention for as we keep going. Because we're going to use his latent power after we get out of this area. So this fight is scripted. We do actually want the ads, or not the ads, but the guards to attack Osvald. because getting hit boosts his latent power. So, first though, we need to use advanced magic. Emerald attacks one, Emerald attacks the other, so we put them both at 1 shield. Osvald defends his first next turn. It's good, his latent power is getting filled up. And then we just do a fully boosted Blizzard, and that'll fill him. Easy peasy. Then we get 2 cutscenes here, and then there's going to be a tutorial for the boat. And then we just go down to the second dock here. Get another cutscene, get another boat. And then on this boat, we're just going to go to the left. And then after this, there'll be a few cutscenes as well. Alright, so now the fun begins. First, we're going to go to Cape Cold. And you can make it night while you're running in here. Just to make it easier, but you don't have to. And then we're going to mug this man, who doesn't even have a special name. So if you got latent power before, then you just activate it, boost, and then Ice Wind. If you did not get latent power, you just attack with your staff, and then fully boost fire, and then he'll die as well. But if you have latent power, you just do this and hope for a one-shot kill. He does have 280 hit points though, and sometimes you low roll, so you might not kill in one shot. But it's nice to try. Then we go up in this house and get the 2000, and go back. And then we're going to run this way. Trigger cutscene and 2 tutorials. So this part we want to walk, and you want to be very careful here. You can get an encounter here. I would guess it's 5, definitely less than 10%, but it can happen. So we'll see if it does. And if you get an encounter, you can just flee or try to break it, but we're good. Then we're going to walk down here, and this is the fun black market roll that's pretty common for all speedruns of Octopath 2. And we're hoping for the cleric here. And basically you just stand here and reset night and day until the cleric shows up. And this can kill some runs if it takes a while. 3 times, 4 times. So this would look like a reset if you're really pushing for a top time. But if you're just playing around, it's no big deal. My PB here before the cleric shows up is 42, which as far as I know is tied for a world record. Plenty of runners have hit 20 or 30 refreshes here. We're actually getting quite a lot. This is pretty unlucky. It gets to be amusing at this point. So this definitely would have been a reset, but we're just going to keep going. Frankly, kind of ridiculous at this point. Maybe I'll get a new PB here. There it is. All right. So first we sell these items here. And then we're going to buy a few things. We buy 1 fire, 1 ice, 1 thunder. And then I'm going to buy 3 fire M's and 4 light M's. So I will say some of the enemies before might have dropped ice soulstones. So you might have some here. If you have 2 or more, you can skip buying them. And you can buy an extra thunder S, which you can use way later in the run as a backup. And I'll try to remember to talk about it then. But right now we don't have anything, so we'll just buy 1 of those, 1 of those, 1 of those, 3 of those, 4 of those. Then we start walking here and change it back to day. Then we can run. So this encounter's not bad. You can break it with fire if you want, or you can YOLO flee. Totally up to you. I'll just break it. And then we want to run to about here, depending on how far you got, and then walk the rest of the way. And then you won't get an encounter. So we need to tag this because we're going to teleport back here later. Run out of here, and then walk again. You can walk all the way and you won't get an encounter, or you can start running about here. You can still get an encounter, but it's a very small chance. Then we run this way to New Delsta. We'll get one more encounter. We don't like this encounter because it has 2 armor, and we just try to flee. The other encounters we can get, you can get the birds, which are weak to ice. Or you can get the meep, which is weak to staff. The meep is alright because you just boost your staff and attack twice. Anyway. Some routes scrutinize here to get a Forget Me Do, and then it shows up in the item shop. But it's a little bit faster. As I said, there are slight tweaks. It's a little bit faster to just buy it instead. So we just go here. We'll trigger a cutscene. We'll say that yes, we'll help. And then we get a fight. And then we just use Ice Wind, and then we're just going to boost Ice Wind, and that'll be that. Easy peasy. And then we skip through these cutscenes, and then we'll have Throne in our party. Then we go here, and from the artist, we're just going to steal these 3 small soul stones. They have a 100% chance, so that's quick. Go in here, and then buy the Unerring Earring. This menu is pretty easy, so you go buy all, and then you just go right to the bottom. Buy it, and then you don't even have to click no. You can just hit the cancel button, and it cancels out. And then we go in here. This is where the Forgive Me Do would show up if you scrutinized it, but instead, you can just buy it, and fortunately, it's also at the bottom as well. Make it night, and we're going to go mug here. This one's easy. We're just going to use one of the light items we bought, and it'll one-shot him. 2 boxes here, and then we do our first real teleport. We're going to go back to the new Delsta Harbor that we tagged before. And then we're going to go here. Make sure you don't pick the first one. Pick the second one. I make it day here just to be safe. But then again, just make sure we go to the second one to go to Canal. And then once we're here, we're going to recruit Casti. Again, we're just going to skip her chapter 1, get her in our party. Because she has a very important purpose later, which I'll explain once we get to a boss fight. Now before we leave Canal, we need to go here. We need to sell the stuff we got from the mug. And then we need to buy the critical earring. But just like the unerring bracelet, it's started at the bottom and it's nice and easy. And then we go out here. On this screen, ideally, we just get 1 encounter. Ideally, that's good enough. This is actually the worst encounter. Not the worst encounter. The second worst encounter, and we got surprised. So pretty much no matter what, you want to use your Wind S. And then here, we do that. Most fights will one-shot with the Wind S, but as I said, this is a bad encounter. You do want to pay attention to Osvald's JP there, though. So I'll show you that he now has 108. If you had bad encounters early in, like in chapter 1, you might end up at 98 or 99 here, which means you'll take another encounter. And it happens. It's unfortunate, but it's happened plenty of times. Fortunately, though, we have 100, so we'll just learn Lightning Bolts. And then we go and we equip Evasive Maneuvers. And we run to the other side, hopefully not getting that second encounter. It is possible to get a second encounter though, even with evasive maneuvers. This screen is kind of funny because you can run the whole way and not get an encounter. But if you want to be safe, you can walk. And the encounters would be the same as the previous screen. But if you walk to right about here and run the rest of the way, you'll always be fine. Now the next two screens have killed a lot of speedruns for a lot of people. Basically, we really don't want to be surprised here. But getting surprised is very likely. There you go. So we're probably going to die. I'm glad we all get to experience this together. If you do die, you can keep playing, and it's actually one of the quicker deaths because they just kill you right away. So most runs, honestly, if you die there once and still have the rest of the runs pretty good, you're fine. 2 deaths, though, it gets a little iffy. But as far as death's concerned, it is one of the faster ones. Hopefully, though, we don't die, and then we just use the fire emblem. And then we're going to do the same thing on the next screen as well. Alright, and no surprise there. So again, fire M's. That's using 2 fire M's, 1 on each of those. So I'm going to stop for a second and say that if you get a Kate in the early encounter leaving Canal, then it's okay to just use a fire M on it. If you get a culture Kate in those 2 fights, again, that's awesome. Use your fire M, it'll kill it. And it'll save you a lot of time later. I won't repeat a ton of stuff, but I'll sort of explain later in the video how you can optimize on finding a culture Kate. If you find a regular Kate, it just boosts your levels and makes the steals a little bit better, but it doesn't change the route much. But a culture Kate does give you some options to potentially save a good chunk of time. So we're coming here, we're gonna steal, and we need to steal this palm leaf. Hopefully not fail. And then we go in here to Conning Creek. And we start the chapter. And we go down here. So there are 2 more steals here. So the first palm leaf was 65%. And then these are 55%. And you only get 5 tries. So runs have died here. Very good runs. For this steal, though, if they both fail, you can just reset and walk into the screen again. So it isn't time loss, but it's finishable. Hopefully we don't fail all of them here. Oh. Alright, we're good. Then we go over here, get this chest. And we're picking up all these random items because we need them to get the inventor class. Then we go back to New Delsta, come out here. We're going to get one more encounter. You can try to break if you want, but generally it's better just to try to flee. And hope for the best. So we talk here. And then we're just going to check on these 2 things right here, and this will give us 2 frankly overpowered abilities, because the inventor class is super OP. We just do this twice. And then we're good to go. We don't need to equip inventor yet, because it'll do an extra menu, which takes more time. You want to keep movement good here. because you can get an encounter here in this screen, like right before the transition. So one thing I want to point out is that other routes would keep going east here, pick up the chest, and then come back. But there's a tweak here to this route where we skip that screen and just go up here and try to flee the encounter. And with a first try flee, it's definitely faster. But if you fail to flee, it's not going to... a failed flee is break even. Failed 2 flees is obviously slower. But there we got the first try flee, so that's good. Here we want to walk. You can go all the way without an encounter if you run, but the odds are pretty slim. It's up to you whether you want to run and risk the failed flee, or if you want to just walk. But we're going to go up here and we're going to get Temenos. So we'll say yes, we'll help the cleric. Get a little fight. Turn order is interesting here. It doesn't matter too much, but you want Cassie to be last, just for a pure optimization standpoint. So you dagger ×2 with Throne A. You need 2 attacks with the axe from Casty. So if Casty's before it's broken, generally I defend because this isn't going to kill it. So I'm going to show you if you do this. And then you want to latent power with Osvald, boost, fire. You see how he didn't die? So it's a super fine line, but if Casty's not last, you should probably just defend with her and attack twice, just from a pure optimization standpoint. Now we have Temenos. We got all the gangs here. Then we're just going to TP back to the harbor. And then we're going to go to Crack Bridge. It's the first option. So first we just run around, and whatever encounter we get here, we're going to try to flee. Hope for a first try flee. Doesn't always happen. Usually second try is pretty good. We'll see. Yeah, not bad. And this is also a pretty common way to run with a lot of routes. So this screen, there's 2 things you can possibly do here. You can just run and not make it night and hope you don't get surprised. And if you're not surprised, life is good. Generally, I like to make it night just in case you get surprised. And I would do it right after this top step here. See, there we go. Now I might survive this because they're debuffed. See, there we go. If it were daytime, I would have just been dead. So the downside, of course, the trade-off is that making it night, you have the animations at the start where it shows your buffs and debuffs, which costs time. Now, also with this screen and the next screen, one of the fights, it's the same fight. One of the fights you're going to use the Wind Owl, and the other fight you're going to use 2 light M's. Now I'm looking at the turn order here, and look at the Armor Eater, right? He's going before Temenos. So if I try to use 2 light M's to kill it, it's going to get a turn. And we don't like that. So I'm going to use the Wind Owl here to kill him, and then just commit to the 2 light M's in the next fight. Be sure you make it day again. Very important. Some routes do go down that ladder to grab that money there, but I don't really like that. I think it's a little faster to go this way. Now we're going to go north here, and similarly, around the save point, we're going to make it night again. You don't have to, but it's totally up to your risk tolerance. We didn't get surprised here, so that's pretty good. And we just use 2 light M's. And we're good. Let's go up this ladder, and then we're going to get the merchant job. So we need to do a menu here. This is the first real menu of the run. So we need to make Throne a merchant. We teach her 2 skills. The first doesn't, well, it does matter, I guess. We do collect, then we need hired help. And then we take Casty and make her an inventor. And then support skills. Everyone gets a step ahead. And Throne also gets grows on trees. And then we're going to go north. Because we're going to go tag gravel. So in case it wasn't apparent, we're going around early and collecting a bunch of money and tagging a bunch of locations. That way, once we tag everything, once we have our money, the rest of the run is bang, bang, super quick, just knocking out the bosses. So the biggest chunk of time is called what's called like exploration, which is what we're doing now. So we run up here. We're going to get this chest for Thunder L. And then I like to make it night around here. You do need to make it night here. You can't risk it being day. If you get surprised, you're pretty screwed. But what you need to do is you need to use a light amp. You need to defend with Throne. The other two people, doesn't matter. And then Throne needs to boost, merchant, hired help, guards. And then it kills this encounter. We need that JP, we need that experience. Make it day again. Don't run at night. And then keep your movement good. And then go up here and we're going to tag gravel. There's a very low chance of encounter here, but it can happen. Now instead of TPing, we're actually just going to leave right away. We're going to go get this chest that is filled with cash money. Let's go get this chest. And then we're going to TP back to conning. We're going to start killing some bosses. Now we come back to conning multiple times. First time we want to steal from this dude. We just steal the energizing palm. It's 100%. Very easy, very quick, but we got to do it. And then we go this way. We're going to go trigger a little cutscene here. Wrap back around. Pick up this fire M stone. And then we're going to make it night, and then we're going to go in here for our fight. So there's only a couple actions that matter here, really. So Osvald, it doesn't matter. Throne needs to defend. Temenos, it doesn't matter. And then Casti does critical scope. Now I want to point out that if you got a cultured Kate, you could learn an extra merchant skill ahead of time and get boost start, which we're going to get later, but you can get earlier if you get the cultured Kate. Then you don't need to defend with Throne, she just needs to be after Casti. So in this fight, I still would have had to defend because Casti was last, but if, for example, Casti was first for critical scope, we could have critical scoped and then boosted with Throne and just killed her in one turn instead of two. But clearly that's not the case here. Casti's last, so Clarissa gets one more turn. And then we just use guards times 3. So boost, merchant, hired help, guards. Should die. So from here, we're going to TP to Flamechurch, where we got Temenos, make it daytime and leave, because we're going to go tag one more place. So this screen, you can walk most of the way and not get an encounter, or you can run and just try to flee, just like before. So I'm going to walk. I do get pretty mad if I walk and still get the encounter, which is possible. So lately I've just been running and fleeing, generally. But I would say a good rule of thumb is if you walk till about this lantern here and run, you're pretty good. Not perfect, but pretty good. Here you can run because we're going to take the encounter. So we just run this way, we'll get an encounter, and we'll kill it with a Fire M. Now, one thing about the Inventor class and what we equipped is called a Step Ahead passive ability. And this is why I said Inventor is super broken, is because, look at this. All the people in our party get a turn before the enemies act. Now this makes boss fights and fights like this incredibly, I don't want to say easy, but it removes a lot of the difficulty and opens up a lot of options. But the caveat is, if you get surprised, a step ahead does not kick in. So as long as you're not surprised, it works. But if you are surprised, it doesn't. But here, we got a step ahead. Let's use the fire M. And then we'll pick up this Thunder M, because it's on the way, and then go up here. The next screen, just like before, you can run and try not to get an encounter, or you can walk a little bit. It's not as long as the last screen, so it's up to you. I think running is generally fine. Plus, if you have a step ahead, you get a free flee attempt, basically, before the enemies go. It's not totally free, but you know, you're still skipping out on the 3 turns that the enemy would have had. So now we tagged Montwise. And we're going to go back to Conning Creek. So you might be wondering, like, why we don't do all of this stuff at once. Why we go, leave, come back, leave, come back, leave, come back. The reason is we're trying to minimize walking around town. So, for example, if when we beat Clarissa, we wanted to run all the way back and then start this, we'd have to come all the way back here, right? Because we got to talk to these people. And this is at the beginning. So it's better to just TP out, do some errands, TP back, and then we're right here. So that's why a lot of this is coming and going to the same place twice, because generally you want to minimize how much you're running around in town. So here, if you played the story, you just click through a few people there. And then we head into the outpost. So there's going to be one encounter here, and I will say this is one change I've made that I like, but other runners might not like so much. But if everything breaks your way, this is faster than other routes. So we're going to run, and the encounter we get here, it's always just going to be 3 guards first. So we run, and if you get past about here without your encounter, you're good and you can run the rest of the way for what I'm about to show you. If you get an early encounter, like further to the left here, you might need to walk a little bit at the end. But here we're pretty good. So one thing I want to say here is, if you got a Kate super early and killed it with the Fire M, so you wouldn't have the Fire M here. What you do is you would just use Hired Help Mercenaries ×2 with Throne, which would break them, and then you just flee. You don't need to kill them. But we didn't get a Kate. So, we have a Fire M here, we kill them, and then we move on. If you're surprised, it'll eat away at your time, but you won't die. Then we go down here. You're going to get this chest. So this chest is the trade-off I mentioned earlier when we were in the boat, where we cut out that screen, going to get that chest. Instead, we're getting this chest, because it is faster. You don't have to have the screen transition. Now, what we want to do is a couple things. First, we're going to do a menu. Throne, Osvald, Merchant, then he needs 3 skills. Hired Help is definitely one of them. The other 2 don't matter. And then Throne back to Merchant, and 1 more skill. And then you need to equip the support skills, Grows on Trees and Boost Star for Osvald. And then Boost Start on Throne. So this is pretty important. Don't forget this menu. Then also, for all the boss fights, we need to make it night. And you want to do that right before, so you don't eat into your step count. So with that said, now we go in here, we fight Stenvar. So because we could Boost Start, now we have an extra BP with Throne. So you see how Osvald and Throne both have 2 BP, and Casti and Temenos only have 1. So because of that, we can actually make this a 1-turn fight. So you boost Merchants, Hired Help, Beastlings, And then we just use an item here and we use Thunder Elf, and that'll kill Stenvar. Then from here, we're going to teleport to Montwise to advance our story. So we go here, we need to steal a light M, 55%. Good news, we got it there. And then we need to scrutinize the people in the library. If you fail these scrutinizes, it doesn't affect your reputation, though unfortunately it does eat up a decent amount of time. But we got that one. And then we go down this way. See, we failed that one, but it didn't affect our reputation. And then we can cut back here and go around. And we got a few text boxes there. I accidentally clicked one too many. But we go down, trigger this cutscene, go in here. So this part, if you are unlucky, you can get an encounter here. And this has killed a couple runs for me. But we need to run this way. We're going to grab this 1400. Run here. If you start walking about at that doorway, you should, I don't want to say definitely, because then I'll get the encounter. But you're very likely to be fine. You can also run the whole way, but it's high risk. And if you get an encounter here, you're just dead. So we're going to walk, and I like to travel banter right in front of that archway, and you just skip it, and it resets your step count. Then you can run again. We'll swing in here, get the Fire Elstone, come back this way. And don't forget to make it night again, and then go in. So the first pre-boss encounter is really easy. You just wait for Throne's turn, boost, merchants, hired help, guards, kills them. Easy. And then we go up here, and we're going to fight the Golem. Which is kind of a fun fight. It's not complicated, it's scripted, but I think it's pretty fun. So turn one. We want Osvald and Casti to be first next turn. So we're going to defend with Osvald. We use Spear ×1 with Throne. So you need to move to the left here 1. Don't use your dagger by accident. Spear ×1. Casti's going to use the Inventor skill, Springy Boots, on herself. So these Inventor skills are all pretty ridiculously overpowered. So Springy Boots makes an ally act first for 5 turns from the next turn, which is pretty insane. Our fights don't go 5 turns, but it's very useful to set up your turn. And then Temenos just stack that. So now with Casti, we need to use Critical Scope. So again, turn all damage to a single foe into critical damage for 4 turns. Very strong. And then Osvald's going to break with Staff ×4. Throne is going to fully boost Merchant, Hired Help, and then Beastlings. And then Temenos, he needs to use your Palm M on Throne. Now Cassie's going to be first again because of Springy Boots. She needs to use her Energizing Pomegranate, the small one, also on Casti. Or, sorry, on Throne. Throne, fully boosted ×4 guards. And then whoever's left just uses a light M, and then we kill it. So I forgot to mention it, but if you got a Cultured Kate, you can skip that chest before Stenvar. I know I'm mentioning this really late, but you know, we're just recording live. If you got the Cultured Kate, you can skip the chest in the outpost. because the cultured cake gives you so much money. You don't need to worry about it. But anyway, after we finish that chapter, teleport again. We're just going to go to Gravel. Start Osvald's last chapter. So two things we need to do. First, we need to make Osvald a merchant. And then we need to learn Elemental Barrage. And we need to steal 65%. You can fail these. Honestly, if you fail these 3, your run is screwed. Or sorry, if you get a lot of fails here. If you get the first 2, you can survive because we have an extra Thunder M. And I'll try to remember to explain that in the boss fight. Hopefully you don't though, because it's nicer to just steal all of them. We got really lucky there. And then you want to make it night before you go to the next screen. Because we're going to do a bunch of mugs here. 5 different mugs. So step ahead here is really nice. Just attack. Hopefully you're first this turn. If you're not, it's okay. Merchant, hired help, guards times 4. That can fail to kill. It can be a range. And if it misses, then you need to use your light M. But your run's not dead or anything. And then we go down this way to our next mug. So here we use Elemental Barrage. And we're basically hoping that it'll crack or break him on turn 1. Oftentimes it doesn't. So if you hit once, if you want, you can use Lightning Bolt. I like to just use Barrage again because it feels a little faster. But he's not going to attack you, so it's no big deal. And then you just use fully boosted guards again. So this one's not too bad. So here you do really want to be first on turn 2. We're not here. And that's because this enemy, this villager, if they get a crit, it one-shots you. And if they one-shot you, it doesn't kill your run or anything, it just kicks you out. Then you just gotta heal and try again. It's not a big deal. But really, we ideally want Osvald first on that turn, or just not to get hit with the crit. So you attack once, merchants, hired help, and use guards, which won't kill him, but then you'll use the Shadow M, which is at the bottom here. The next one's easy, you just use a light M and a fire L. So we go down, light M, up the bottom of our inventory, and then we go to the fire L, and that'll kill her. And the last one here. So you defend, fully boost, and then B-slings. Usually this kills, but it can be a range, and if you don't kill, then you just gotta use a light M, and that'll kill her. So all this is done. So, a couple things. Throne, merchant again. Temenos, inventor. And then make it daytime. And then we go into the last dungeon. So this dungeon does have some tricky encounters. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get, but in the description for this video, I will post the breaks for each encounter. So that'll be in the description below, because ideally we'll just get 2. So we want to run at first, then we go right, and we're just going to keep going south-ish. Hopefully we get to the stairs. There we go. Not bad. Alright, this encounter is not too bad. It just takes a while. So you need to use Inventor, Springy Boots on Osvald. Throne and Casti are just wasted turns. Osvald, Advanced Magic. And then Osvald, Blizzard. And then you just flee. After the first encounter, you want to walk, because we got a long walk here. Gonna walk all the way down and grab this money. And it kind of goes without saying, but if you get surprised in those encounters, it pretty much kills. Well, it's going to kill you for sure. But it might kill your time. So you want to look. For the last fight, we need full latent power with Throne and with Casti. It doesn't matter for Osvald, but you got to check your latent power with Throne and Casti. And if you remember, you can check in the fight beforehand. But clearly I didn't remember, so I check here. If they're both full, you can just run and go straight up towards the boss. But we're going to pretend like they're not full. And if they're not full, well, Throne should be full. Casti's probably not, though. If they're not full, you can go get this chest, which is a lychee L. Alright, we're just going to get the same encounter again. I wish this would happen in a real run. So definitely check the description, because these encounters are actually not that common. I was kind of hoping I would get different encounters. Blizzard. But you'll get that lychee, and then if you need it, then you just use it on a Casti here to get her to full. If you got the chest, you can run up until about right here. Maybe a little further, then you gotta walk. If you didn't need to get the chest, you can just run the whole way. Don't forget to make it night right about here before the steps. And then just get in there. So first you just have this encounter. You just defend with Throne, no one else matters. And then you just use Beast Slings times 4. That'll kill it. And then we're going to fight Harvey, the last boss. So just some info I'm going to give you guys on turn 1. So I talked very early on about how if you got ice soulstones from the black market that you didn't need to buy, you could buy a thunder soulstone. Also, I talked about how the Thunder M can be used as a backup. Those could be used for some of the breaks that I'm going to put in the description prior to this in the dungeon. But they can also be used here if you need to. But I'm going to say that even if you used all of your Thunder L's, or M's, or S's, you can still win this fight. So I'll show you what you would do in that situation. But first, Temenos always has the same turn, so he's going to Spring Boots Osvald. So here for Throne, I'm going to use the Thunder M. If you have no Thunder anything, you can just have her attack with Spear, and it'll still do 1 damage, so it's okay. But the benefit of the Thunder M is it slightly boosts your collect chances. So that's what we're going to do. Now for Casti, one thing to point out, which I've neglected to this point, but you may have been curious about, is why did we pick up that Forget Me Do in New Delsta way back in the day? So there's actually, I'm not going to call it a glitch, but a perhaps unintended interaction in the game. So normally with bosses like this, they have a gate where no matter how much damage you do, they will survive at 1 hit point, and you will have to go through a bunch of text bubbles and stuff, and then after they go through all that, after they unbreak, then you can kill them. But what some people figured out is that if you use a Forget Me Do on the boss, then it does not trigger that, and you can just kill them outright. And just for reference, this also works with a Baiting Orb, but we don't have that right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to concoct with the Forget Me Do, which if you look at this, nullifies attribute raising effects. We don't care about that. We just care about the weird interaction it has. Forget Me Do and whatever else you do doesn't matter. Depends on what items you picked up. Don't even overthink it. Just pick whatever's above. So concoct and Casty. And Osvald will use Elemental Barrage. Osvald's first again. Fully boost, Scholar, Elemental Barrage. That'll break him. Throne, Merchant, Collect. That's 96%. Don't really like that. It would have been really funny if I failed. Temenos uses a Shadow L, so it is nice if Temenos is before Throne. If he is, the Shadow L damage makes the collect chance 100. But 96% will work out. Okay. Casty defends, because we need her first next time. Casty Latent Power. Go back to Medicinal Concoction. Fully boost. And then we're going to use Palm Leaf. All the way down. Don't click too fast or you'll accidentally use it on Casty. We need to use them on Throne here. Osvald can just use a Shadow L. Throne, Latent Power. Fully boost. Merchant, Hired Help, Veteran Soldiers. And then she gets to go again. Merchant, boost, Hired Help, Beastlings. And then last but not least, Shadow L. And there's a little bit of stuff after this. But we beat the boss, which is nice. So we're going to have to go do one more thing. Go up here. And then the time stops right when the fin screen appears, so right there. So 102.57, not bad for a tutorial run. So as I said, this is a pretty fun run. The grind at the beginning can be rough, but generally after that, the fights are pretty scripted, and it's not too bad. We actually had pretty good luck, other than the black market. We had really good luck in Chapter 1 for reference. Not with the encounters so much, but the boss fight in Chapter 1 was really good. The black market, it took us way too many rolls to get the cleric, so that probably would have been a reset there. But again, if you're just playing for fun, playing casually, not a big deal. All the other encounters were good. We didn't get surprised in the dungeon. We did get surprised on the way to Conning Creek, which you hope to avoid. But all the boss fights are scripted after Chapter 1. So I do think this run is quite friendly for new runners to Octopath 2. And I encourage you to, check this out and have some fun with it. And if you have any questions, everyone in the Discord and the community is always really happy to help. Me, but also there's plenty of other people who have lots of good resources. So that's it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Happy to help. And hopefully this route doesn't get outdated in the near future. Because you never know, right? Someone always comes back and ends up beating the routes. But that's it.